Hello and welcome to another episode of Copper Bottomed, the genuine and trustworthy look at some of the copper news of the recent weeks. This week it's actually a double bill. I've been on jury duty for 2 weeks and it's just kind of knocked out the working week, and so I was unable to process and put together Copper Bottomed last week. So this week's a double bill. So I'll have to be concise and brief. When I'm looking at the copper market, I've just actually looked at the last week, just kind of recent days. I haven't gone back to the news for last week. There's some pretty big news out there this week alone. The first point I'd like to make is about First Quantum and Cobre Panama. Obviously, the Panamanian Supreme Court ruled that its contracted to operate the mine was unconstitutional. It seems, the more reading I do, that it's not so much a protest about the mine directly, although that's become the lightning rod. It's really about the frustration at government processes, lack of transparency, fears of corruption. And it seems that the mine is kind of bearing the brunt of this. It's become an unfortunate poster child for the protest against the government. The result, of course, is that First Quantum, this is recent news, this is just kind of yesterday or a couple of days ago, that First Quantum has shut operations down. And it's about 25,000 tonnes per month of copper that is produced from there. I don't expect it to be offline for long, although it could be. It might be a number of months, it might be a matter of years, but I expect this to be resolved before too long and the mine to continue its operations. But if you put that in the context of the so-called surplus for this year and the so-called surplus for next year, what you'll see is that this is kind of gradually eroding another chipping away at that the copper surplus. As you know, I've been talking a long time in almost every week about the fact that copper often shows that the predictions forecast a surplus, but mine supply typically disappoints. And there's a really good piece by Rick Mills. This came out last week. I recommend that you go and look at it, exposing the copper surplus myth. He goes through in great detail all of the things that I talk about, but he's, of course, backed it up with comprehensive data and statistics and graphs. It's a really, really good read, and it should confirm the view or your understanding that the copper market it's very hard to bring new assets into production. There are lots of obstacles. And the industry has a poor track record of meeting that growth in supply. The other main bit of news, I think, this week is the fact that China's MMG spent $1.9 billion tying up Khoemencau copper mine. I think that's how you pronounce it, in Botswana. Now, this at the bottom here, you can see their resource table. It's about 93 million tons at 2% copper with a bit of silver. It's about 1.9 million tons of copper, and they've spent about $1.9 billion buying it. And that's a really interesting figure, because it shows that when there's a commercially viable deposit, yes, the grade is nominally good, but these Botswanan deposits sometimes can be quite challenging to access. So let's just call it a nominally economic or nominally commercial resource of 1.9 million tons of contained copper. It's going at about $1,000 per ton in a commercial market transaction. And that's when you think that the copper price now is $8,450 something a ton, and that you can look towards $10,000 a ton as kind of being a yardstick. It's 10 to 12% of the price is being bought or being paid for in an advanced resource, and that's a really kind of interesting metric to bear in mind, and it should underpin the value of good copper assets as they get developed and advanced. And that comes straight onto the results of the 2 weeks. Last week, Monday starting the 20th of November, and this week starting Monday the 27th of November. A whole bunch of companies reporting last week. We've got 800 meters and 882 meters there, and down to 1.4 meters here. And this week we've got Benton, Minsud, Arizona, Sonoran, Northstar, Pacific Ridge, Actually, Northstar is repeated. Last week, there was DLP, American Pacific, Xanadu Mines, Atico, Cascadia, Lara, Halcones, Northstar, and O3. So let's just kind of get straight into it. Now, I've covered DLP a few times. They've got a market capitalization of $39 million, and they're drilling a porphyry in Peru. I've said several times I would really like to see them come to move away from talking about copper equivalent, because it doesn't help anybody. They've got very low copper grades, and it's molybdenum asset, and so it shouldn't really have a place on a copper chat. I would, of course, continue to use them if they reported in line with TSX regulations. And just as kind of, if anybody wants to have a look at it, the disclosure standards for companies engaged in mineral exploration, development and production, published by the Toronto Stock Exchange. It's available on the web, and it says what you should do when you're reporting preliminary results. And here's the important bit. For a polymetallic property, results of exploration for a polymetallic property must not be reported in metal equivalents prior to disclosing resources or reserves, and then only in limited circumstances. So we'll move on. I will start talking about their geology and their news releases when they start. I look forward to seeing them doing what the TSX asks for. Right, so the next company, American Pacific Mining, $40 million market capitalization. Pretty torrid share price chart. I mean, what did I mark out here? Okay, so this is the company. I've covered this one before. They've got a joint venture. They've got a VMS, volcanogenic massive sulfide deposit in the Porcupine Mining District of Alaska. It's being funded by Dowa. Dowa own over 51% of the asset. They report beautifully. Look at this. It's not hard. 31 meters of 2.59% copper and 11.21% zinc. That's great. What's interesting here is that they got really good assays from a geotechnical drill hole. 11 meters at 1% copper, 1.28 and 13% zinc. You know, these are good results. And if you, as I did, you kind of look through the website, you realize that they've actually been working on this project for years. And there's an existing resource and there's a PEA. But what I think this shows is that there's exploration potential where they were doing geotechnical holes. They found mineralization. So it feels as if there's a lot more to do on the exploration front before it goes to the development side. And I think this is referenced by Warwick Smith, the CEO. He says the work has established a solid foundation and technical vision for resource expansion and de-risking the project, i.e., they're still in exploration phase, and it's just a foundation. It's a technical vision looking at expansion and de-risking. So work in progress, and I would like to see continued work on this. Remember that the Dowa are paying for it, but they've also got the economics. Here we go. They also talk about it here. This is much later in the news release. They say the insights gained from this program will guide subsequent drilling campaigns to support future feasibility level studies and discovery-focused drilling throughout the region. So they're basically putting their hand up and saying they've got a lot more work to do. But still, very nice news releases, and I look forward to seeing the results from this company. Next, Xanadu Mines. Now, this is an interesting one. I've spoken about them before. Their share price graph looks like death. Very blocky, no trade. $85 million market capitalization on almost no volume. And remember, this is the one which is being in Mongolia, and it's Zijin Mining have got they basically got control of this. Now, what was really, I thought the most interesting thing about this was that they talk about good mineralization, and then they put out things like 1,000 meters at 0.21% copper equivalent from 491 meters. So it's deep, it's low grade, and that's a copper equivalent figure. So I would love to see it broken down into its constituent parts as per TSX guidelines. B, this shows that, to me, this looks like sub-economic mineralization. And I mean, this hole going down to 2,300 meters, I mean, yikes. It kind of strikes me that this is China Inc. looking to get hold of copper minerals, and it doesn't really seem to be too worried about their commercial viability. It's possibly because Zijin is expecting much higher prices and thinks that these marginal low-grade assets are going to become valuable in the future. Anyway, it was a hugely long news release. I kind of flipped through and eventually on page 31, right at the very, very end, I could see that Xanadu is a 50-50 joint venture of 76.5% of the Khoemencau project. So, I mean, what have you got there? 38% of the economics of ultra low-grade mineralization. I can see why it doesn't trade much. But anyway, I looked forward to seeing better practice here. I'd love to see this company publishing results just on the metals, and also coming out with a plan on how it's going to derive share or capital value. Moving on to Atico Mining. This is an interesting company, $14 million, very accomplished mining company, but with a micro market capitalization, and it's been affected by Colombian politics, by Ecuadorian politics, and by the downturn in the sector. The news release from November the 15th, so we're going back a bit now, talks about brownfield drilling to extend mine life at El Roble in Colombia, and they get good intercepts of 24.7 meters at 4.19% copper, 3 grams gold, and also 5 meters of 4.84% copper and 12 grams gold. You don't need to put a copper equivalent. This is fantastic, good reporting. I like it. Now, the curious thing is that this drilling is to expand the tonnage and extend the mine life at the El Roble mine. These are volcanogenic massive sulfides, VMS deposits. You typically get lenses, and you can always, not always, but you can extend the life and extend the life and extend the life. The challenge is to get materiality on these small. If you start with a small mine, it's really, really hard to explore for something big, and it's really, really hard to turn it into a big mine. So you get all of the headaches of running a mining operation, but with none of the upside of the cash flow generation. So you really can see this here, is that the company plans to update the resource estimate. So basically what it's doing is it's running the resource ahead of itself a little bit, a year or two. It's a bit of a hamster wheel. These guys are great. I mean, I've met the Ganosa guys and the team. I've met Fernando. He's a super, super operator. It's just very, very hard to get these things, these small mines to do a step change. Slightly strange image in the news release. I couldn't really work out the orientation, or I mean, obviously north bodies and the main body here. So this is probably towards the north, but I would have expected or hoped to have a little bit better orientation on the cross section. And I just note that it's a small mine. This is, you know, they've been at it for 10 years, and they've gone from 400 tons per day to 1,000 tons per day. So and they've got 1 million tons of resource or reserve. So, you know, it's hard to get those step changes, but they must keep at it. They must keep at it and see if they can find a way through the thicket. Okay, Cascadia Minerals. This has got a market capitalization of $13 million. I didn't know about it. I've never heard of it. I looked at the 5-year share price, and it only goes back to kind of 2020, and they've had a good run. And so I read the news release to try and understand what's going on in the company. November the 16th, pleased to provide the results of the first 2 diamond drill holes ever completed at its 100% controlled flagship cache property in the central Yukon, Canada, located 16 kilometers from an all-season highway and power line. Okay, so it's in the Yukon. It's got all of the weather issues up there. It is quite close, but I don't know what those 16 kilometers hold. It might be over the top of a mountain. They've drilled 5 holes for 2,000, roughly 500 meters. That's okay. I can do the maths there, about 500 meters or just under per hole. This release contains the results from the first 2 holes, and the results from the remaining 3 holes are pending. Very clear. I like it. Really, really simple reporting. Drilling highlights. First drill holes ever drilled. Both yielded significant copper-gold mineralization. confirming a new copper-gold porphyry discovery. Interesting use of the word discovery. I always am cautious about that. What's interesting is that the first hole, which is obviously this one, they collared it probably on some good soil indications or some kind of good ground indications, went into the guts of this anomaly and looked, the best grade, 0.3% copper, 0.15 gold, is just to the top here. And then the second hole, which is a step back, went right into the middle of this anomaly, and their best grade is the bottom here, 0.3% copper, 0.3 grams gold. Maybe there's some vertical component in this. I don't know. It's early days, but it's interesting. It's interesting that the drilling has yet to intersect significant potassic alteration. So what's this chargeability all about? Maybe it's pyrite. Remember the nickname for IP is indicate pyrite. CEO Graham Downs, president and CEO, goes on to say that to have made a significant copper-gold porphyry discovery, and I would insert there, is quite a stretch to call it that. The first 2 holes ever drilled on a project is incredibly rare. And I say, yes, it is rare, but I wouldn't say that this is a significant copper-gold porphyry discovery because they haven't hit potassic alteration and they haven't hit high grade. Having said that, 117 meters of 0.31% copper and 0.3 grams gold is a really good start. So they're doing well. And then they talk here about the Cascadia is the first mover in the underexplored extension of the Stikini terrain in Yukon. Now, I always think that the first mover is actually, it's not first mover advantage, it's first mover disadvantage. Whereas the Canadians might say, if you're at the front, you're breaking trail, which is much harder work. I like the way the share price is going. I like that result down here. This is really interesting. It's a micro market cap. I wish the team good luck in their exploration, and I look forward to seeing further results, particularly the results from the next 3 holes. That'll be crucial. Good. Onwards. Lara exploration. Crikey. Okay, market cap $24 million. Share price sideways over the last 3-4 years, which I guess is a decent result. Very strange tone and presentation of the website and the presentation and the news release. It's very, very wordy, lots of text. It's quite hard to work out what's going on. If you're listening, Lara Exploration, I would really suggest that you focus on what does it mean, why is it important, and what's going to happen next. This is just, it feels a bit like a kind of, they've just coughed up information without actually kind of processing it. Here we go. The Planalto copper project, I had to look up where it was. It's in Brazil, by the way. A significant new zone of shallow copper mineralization in the northern extension of the Cupuzero target. You know, they include copper grades to 3 decimal places. So there's lots of focus on the detail, but I can't quite see the bigger picture. So that's what I'd really like to see this company do, is just to step back and just talk in general terms, high level. What are we doing? Does this change anything? So, I mean, they've got the Cupuzero target, and there's a bit of 16 meters of a bit of copper at 310 meters, and there's 28 meters at 0.4% copper. They've got new intersections at Homestead, 54 at 0.5. That's good. Also quite deep, 311, and 25 meters at 0.6% from 88 meters downhole, and then at Silica Cap, 15 meters at 1% from 141. It all's just kind of a bit confusing. So I moved swiftly on to the next one. Halcones Precious Metals. This is another new company. Again, a micro market capitalization of $11 million. They are run by ex-brokers, but with a team in Chile. They are looking at making kind of epithermal gold and silver and copper discoveries in Chile. They are in the Maricunga belt, which is northeast of Copiapó, presumably up in the mountains. I'm not sure. Anyway, these are the first holes of the Carachapampa project, or the project. And what this showed is that there's a historic hole from April, which gave 0.55% over 2 meters. And over this one, they got 3.9% copper and 0.21 grams gold over 8 meters. But we're now in kind of late November, early December. It's an extraordinarily long time between these two holes. So it makes me wonder what was going on there. I'd love to know. It's quite a clear news release. It's got a very nice section. I like that very much. Ian Parkinson says, the presence of high-grade copper coupled with strong alteration and highly anomalous pathfinder elements over greater than 100 meter of core length indicates we have the potential to make a significant discovery at Cobre Panama. That may be true, but it'd be really interesting to see more momentum and more mineralization over widths, and of course, kind of more work, speed it up, get going, get drilling, drill or die. Right, next up is Northstar Gold, $4 million market capitalization. Look at that share price chart over 3 years. I mean, it's a shocker. They have got a VMS at the Cam copper mine, which is near Kirtland Lake in Ontario. It's road accessible, satellite, high grade VMS copper system. Okay, that's all useful information. It's a very, very dense news release that I struggle to go through, but I could pick out 3.12% copper over 3.6 meters, 5.91% copper over 1.5. But weirdly, in the same news release, they started repeating themselves. There were two news releases. There was one on the 16th and there was one on the 23rd. But it was very hard to see which was new news and which one was old news. So, for example, on this one, on the 23rd, news release on the 23rd, there was no indication that this was an old hole that they'd previously announced, nor this one in Zone 3. So, slightly confusing reporting. Some good grades. I should imagine they're cash starved, down at $4 million. But actually, the geology looks all right. Scale, I think, would be really, really useful. Good. Moving on to O3. Now, this is interesting because they're a $120 million market cap company, and they are reporting on a VMS target that they've been drilling. I'm surprised that they made a news release out of this because it's not really news. The grades are low. The intersection is only 1.4 meters, and it's deep. It's down at 356 meters. I would have said that this is the kind of thing that you just keep within your exploration team, and you continue to work at it. If you think there's good exploration potential, you keep plugging away. This is immaterial relative to their gold assets. And then for Jose Vizquera to say that we're very excited about the initial results, well, methinks the lady doth protest too much. Gold. O3 is a gold company, and if they can work something up privately or secretly or quietly on copper, then great. Right. So now we start the second week of news releases, and I have spoken about Benton before, and it's only just now beginning to kind of crystallize in my mind that these guys are in Newfoundland. They've got the joint venture with Sonoran on the lithium. I'd forgotten about that. I think it's the Grey Lake or something. Market capitalization of $30 million. They've had this rise from, they've gone up 4 times from 5 cents to 20 cents. And I, reading this, think that that's just the beginning. I don't think this is the end. So the news release on the 28th of November wasn't really a news release. Now, that's weird because it was included in the, anyway, it was included in the weekly. The weekly came out on the 25th of November, and yet this heading is on the 28th. Never mind. The point is, these are actually just previously reported results. 13 meters at 8.3% copper in hole 2, and 7.2% copper over 27 meters in hole 4. And this is just a roundup news release. Stephen Stairs, the CEO, says, we're excited to conclude our maiden drill program at Great Burnt. We had initially planned a 2,000 meter program, but we expanded it to 5,651. They're doing a financing, well positioned to demonstrate the potential. I look forward to receiving the remaining results as we prepare for the next phase of drilling in the winter of 2024. And that's the crucial thing. If you look here at this long section, the red stars are the previously released intersections, and the black stars are the pierce points. And you can see these ones. I would have thought that these black stars are the ones which have not been released yet. So we've had results from 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But we've got all of these bad boys, all of these black stars to come, right up to hole 22 here. And I would suggest that you might get lucky. Given the results that they've been finding, I would have thought that they're going to hit some more good stuff. So this is, I think, of all the things I've seen this week, this is the most interesting one, and I really look forward to seeing what happens there. So you heard it here. Right, Minsud Resources. Again, another company I'd never heard of. Market capitalization of $164 million Canadian. Would you look at that? And the share price has done phenomenally well over the last couple of years. So I was gobsmacked when I saw the market capitalization and the share price, and I had a look at the asset. Minsud encounters 767 meters at 0.25% copper, 0.05 grams gold, and 5 grams silver at Chinchillones. And it's planning a mineral resource estimate. Great headline. No copper equivalents. These guys know what the TSX guidelines are. Fantastic. Okay, so where are we? It's the assay results from 9 additional drill holes which were completed as part of the Phase 4 drill program at Chita Valley. 52 drill holes have been completed to date in Phase 4 for 39,000 meters. Assay results have been received from holes 82 to 90, so that's the 9 holes there. So 8,000 meters of the 39,000. 4 more holes, 91 to 94, are currently awaiting assay. Okay, this is really clear. Good writing, good drafting. They do talk about day sites being cross-cut by high-grade hydrothermal intrusive breccias. They talk about high-grade mineralization, high-grade, and you go to the numbers and it's 0.25% copper. That's not high-grade. Anyway, the CEO, Ramiro Massa, says these findings have prompted us to commence an updated mineral resource estimate on the project. So I went and had a look at the project and I realized, okay, so they've got 42 million tons if you take the inferred and the indicated, which I'm not supposed to, and that's about 0.42% copper, with a little bit of gold and a little bit of silver and a little bit of moly. What's interesting is that the Chita Valley resource seems to be considerably better than the grades that are being intersected here in Chinchillones. And then I had another quick look at it, and I saw that in 2023, South 32 exercised its earn-in rights under the EIA to acquire 50.1% ownership. So South 32 is going to fund this, going to take it through all the various stages, and I think that's why the share price has done so well. But they're well capitalized, so they've probably got plenty of cash. I think the grades need to be better than this for South 32 to want to be able to really move on something. 42 million tons at 0.4% copper is probably not big enough, particularly as they've only got half of it. So I'd like to see more exploration and if possible, higher grades, but it's not easy to achieve. Right. Moving on. Arizona Sonoran Copper, market capitalization $156 million. I really struggled with the last news release, and I begged the drafter of that to simplify the news release on this one. And I actually spoke with the drafter of the news release, who had been slightly surprised by the nature of my vociferous criticism of the drafting. And I read this news release, and I'm afraid to say it also gave me a slight headache because there's so much information packed in. I always feel that the front page of a news release just has to be the very, very simple bare facts, and all of the detail can be poured through by someone who's really keen in the subsequent pages of the news release. But the front page has to be crystal clear. And you can see I've had to, just to fit it onto one page, I've had to cut out huge paragraphs because of kind of lots of detail that wasn't kind of getting in the way of the message. And the message is they've hit near surface mineralization from 4 drill holes. And this is at Mainspring. They've drilled 8. They've got 2 more to go. And the highlights are they've hit shallow mineralization south of Park Salia, and the mineralization starts at 42 meters in 3 of those holes. Okay, and then the numbers are 132 meters at 0.31% copper soluble, 218 meters at 0.28% copper soluble. So these are quite low grades, with some high graded sections in the middle. 174 meters at 0.19. Okay, getting pretty low grade here. And 97 meters at 0.23. Now, what this shows is that exploration isn't always easy, and you don't always find high-grade stuff. But they've got a beautiful cross-section here, which shows you that these are the reported grades, and the primary sulfides, those assays are coming later. I like the fact that they include the true widths are not known. That's really important. George Ogilvy quote, assay results coming from the main, they reinforce the strength of our cactus system, porphyry copper system, yes. And the significance of the Park Salia deposit to the overall cactus project, yes, because once you've built your infrastructure, once you've got your project up and running, then even relatively low grade can add marginal tons. The property continues to demonstrate growth opportunities beside an already significant copper project, correct. Within a world-class jurisdiction, correct. On a property with a clear path to development, yes. These results are the first 3.5 holes from the 10-hole program. We're excited about Mainspring's near-surface potential next to the deeper, high-grade Park Salia deposit. Yes, all fine. So let's see the next results, and if possible, even simpler drafting. Just cut out the detail, just headline stuff on the front page, just to make it easy for the reader to work out what's going on, and all of the detail can go in the back. Lovely. Pacific Ridge Exploration, $19 million market capitalization. I've spoken about this company before with the Cleal camp. I mean, they did double metal equivalents. They gave you metal equivalents in copper, they give you metal equivalents in gold. I mean, it's just like, but that was for the Cleal project. Here, they're drilling at RDP, and they're drilling at Day, and they're drilling at Bird. So this is a kind of a catch-all news release. It's in north-central British Columbia, 40 kilometers away from Cleal. Antofagasta, this is really important, Antofagasta can earn 75% by spending $10 million on exploration over 8 years. Oh my God. You know, we'll be old men by then. 8 years, and delivering a PEA. Crikey. So this is not going anywhere in a hurry, but Antofagasta's funding it. That's good. So the one hole here returned 107 meters of 0.63% copper, 1 gram gold. That's a really good intercept. 107 meters of 1 gram gold and 0.63% copper. I like it. And then there was also 19 meters of 0.32% copper, 0.19 gold. It's not so great. They put in a couple of nice cross-sections, and I would love this company to go away and read the disclosure standards for companies engaged in mineral exploration, development, and production, and have a look at the guidelines on using metal equivalents. And to call it another porphyry copper gold discovery at Bird, I like to think that a discovery is something when it's commercial. And I think this is a long way away from being commercial yet. So on. Oh, that's the end of the slideshow. There we go. I've got that. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed that rattle through. And I will see you next week. Bye for now.